Do you know your obligations as a data controller or processor under GDPR? GDPR, that's all about protecting people's personal data, and it's a world that you, as a data controller or processor, need to understand inside and out. Let's start from the beginning. GDPR came into being to ensure that the personal data of individuals within the European Union is protected. It's not just an EU thing, though. Even if your company is based outside the EU, if you handle the data of individuals within it, you need to comply. Now, to the heart of the matter, the roles of data controllers and processors. The data controller is the entity that determines the purposes and means of processing personal data. Think of it as the decision maker. On the other hand, the data processor is the entity that processes personal data on behalf of the controller. They're the doers acting on instructions from the controller. It's vital to understand these roles, not just to comply with GDPR, but also to ensure that personal data is handled with the respect it deserves. If you're a controller, you need to know what you can and can't do with the data you control. And if you're a processor, you must understand the limits of your role and what you're legally obliged to do to protect the data you process. But it's not just about knowing your role, it's also about understanding your obligations under GDPR. From ensuring the security of the data you handle, to reporting data breaches within a certain time frame, these obligations are not to be taken lightly. Remember, data is not just data, it's people's lives. It's their personal details, their preferences, their secrets. It's what makes them them. And as a data controller or processor, you have a responsibility to protect it. Understanding the obligations under GDPR is not just a legal necessity, but also a pathway to secure and respectful data handling practices. So stick around, because we're going to delve deeper into what these obligations are and how you can ensure you're meeting them. Data controllers play a crucial role in data processing, but what are their key responsibilities? Let's dive in. First and foremost, data controllers must ensure that all processing activities align with the principles set out in GDPR. These principles include lawfulness, fairness, and transparency, as well as purpose limitation, data minimization, accuracy, storage limitation, integrity, and confidentiality. Additionally, data controllers have a responsibility to implement appropriate security measures. This means they must take steps to protect personal data from unauthorized access, unlawful processing, accidental loss, destruction, or damage. This could involve using strong encryption, maintaining secure backups, regularly testing and evaluating security measures, and more. Next up is the obligation to conduct data protection impact assessments, or DPIAs. These are required for high-risk processing activities and are designed to help data controllers identify and minimize the data protection risks of a project. Also, data controllers are required to maintain a record of processing activities. These records should include details such as the purposes of the processing, a description of the categories of data subjects and personal data, and the recipients to whom the data have been or will be disclosed. But it doesn't stop there. Data controllers also have to ensure that they comply with the rights of data subjects. This includes responding to requests for access, rectification, erasure, and data portability, as well as respecting the right to object and the rights in relation to automated decision-making and profiling. In essence, data controllers are the gatekeepers of personal data. Ensuring its secure and law-abiding processing, they have a wide range of obligations under GDPR, all of which are designed to protect the privacy and rights of individuals. By understanding and fulfilling these obligations, data controllers can not only avoid hefty fines and reputational damage, but also build trust with their customers and users. And in today's data-driven world, this trust is more important than ever. Accountability is a cornerstone of GDPR, but how does it apply to data controllers? Let's delve into the world of data controllers and their role in ensuring accountability under GDPR. The accountability principle is fundamental to compliance. This principle mandates that data controllers must not only comply with the regulation, but also demonstrate this compliance. It's like saying, don't just talk the talk, but walk the walk. How do they do that, you ask? Well, they keep records of their processing activities, conduct data protection impact assessments for high-risk processing, and implement appropriate security measures to safeguard the personal data under their watch. But wait, there's more. Under certain conditions, data controllers are required to appoint a data protection officer, or DPO. This is a dedicated role within the organization that oversees data protection strategy and implementation to ensure compliance with GDPR requirements. The DPO serves as the point of contact between the company, the supervisory authorities, and the individuals whose data is being processed. Now, we move on to one of the most critical obligations of data controllers: reporting data breaches. When a data breach occurs, the clock starts ticking. Controllers must report any data breaches to the supervisory authority within 72 hours of becoming aware of it. In cases where the breach poses a high risk to the rights and freedoms of individuals, the data subjects must also be informed without undue delay. But remember, these aren't just checkbox exercises. Each obligation is designed to ensure the safeguarding of personal data and the rights of individuals. The GDPR expects data controllers to adopt a culture of data protection and to weave it into the fabric of their organization. And so data controllers are held to a high standard of accountability. They are expected to take the helm and steer their organizations towards a culture of data protection, embedding it into their everyday operations. As you can see, accountability is not a one-time task, but a continuous commitment to data protection. It's like a journey, and every step taken is a stride towards ensuring the rights and freedoms of individuals in the digital age. Data processors also have significant responsibilities under GDPR. Let's delve deeper into these obligations. As the entities that process personal data on behalf of the controller, data processors have a unique set of obligations. For starters, they must process data strictly based on the documented instructions from the controller. This means that they cannot decide how to process the data on their own accord. Data processors are also tasked with ensuring the security of the data processing. They must adopt suitable security measures to safeguard the personal data they handle. This could include measures such as pseudonymization, encryption, and implementing strict access controls. In addition to the security measures, data processors are required to assist the data controller in fulfilling their compliance obligations. This assistance can extend to various areas, for instance, responding to requests from data subjects exercising their rights under GDPR. A data subject might request access to their personal data, or they may wish to have their data corrected or erased. The data processor must support the controller in promptly addressing these requests. Moreover, data processors must maintain records of their processing activities. These records can prove invaluable in demonstrating compliance with GDPR requirements. It's important to remember that transparency and accountability are key principles of GDPR, and maintaining detailed records is part and parcel of upholding these principles. Data processors are also expected to cooperate with supervisory authorities. Should these authorities require information about the data processing activities, the data processor must be ready and willing to provide what is needed. It's clear that the role of a data processor is a crucial one. They're not just bystanders in the data protection landscape. They are active participants entrusted with significant responsibilities. They must work closely with data controllers, follow their instructions, and help them fulfill their GDPR obligations. It's a complex role requiring a deep understanding of the regulation and a commitment to upholding its principles. But when data processors fulfill their obligations effectively, they contribute significantly to the protection of personal data. Processors thus play a vital supporting role, facilitating data controllers in their GDPR compliance journey. Security of data processing and data protection by design are two key principles of GDPR. But what do they entail? When we talk about the security of processing, it's about implementing appropriate technical and organizational measures. What does that mean? Well, it involves a spectrum of actions like pseudonymization and encryption of personal data, ensuring ongoing confidentiality, integrity, availability, and resilience of processing systems and services. It also means having a plan in place to restore the availability and access to personal data in a timely manner in the event of a physical or technical incident. Think of it as building a fortress around your data, a fortress that is regularly tested and evaluated for its effectiveness in ensuring the security of the processing. After all, a fortress is only as strong as its weakest point, right? Now let's shift our focus to data protection by design and by default. This principle is all about integrating data protection into your processing activities right from the start. Picture it as building a house. Instead of adding locks and security systems after the house is built, you integrate them into the design from the beginning. This way, the house is secure by design. Similarly, when processing personal data, the default settings should ensure that only the necessary data for each specific purpose is processed. It's like the default setting of a lock, which is always locked unless decided otherwise. So in a nutshell, security of processing is about creating a secure environment for data processing, and data protection by design and by default is about ensuring that this environment is built into the design of your processing operations from the outset. But remember, these principles are not just about ticking boxes. They're about creating a culture of data protection that permeates every level of your organization. It's about making sure that every single person in your organization understands their role in protecting personal data. Remember, data protection is not an afterthought, but a fundamental aspect that needs to be embedded from the start. How to deal with data breaches and cooperate with authorities are crucial aspects of GDPR. GDPR outlines specific procedures when it comes to data breaches. In the unfortunate event of a data breach, the controllers are required to notify the relevant supervisory authority within 72 hours, where feasible. But what exactly constitutes a data breach? It refers to a security incident where personal data is lost, destroyed, corrupted, disclosed, accessed, or processed without authorization. This could happen due to a multitude of reasons, such as cyber attacks, human error, or technical issues. The key point is that the personal data has been compromised in some way. Now let's talk about the role of data processors. They too have a crucial part to play in the event of a data breach. Processors must notify controllers without undue delay after becoming aware of a data breach. They must assist the controller in managing the situation, and this includes helping to notify the data subjects if the breach poses a high risk to their rights and freedoms. But the responsibilities of both controllers and processors don't end there. They are required to cooperate with supervisory authorities, such as national data protection authorities, in their investigations and compliance checks. This cooperation is a critical aspect of GDPR, and it is important to approach it with transparency and openness. Cooperation might involve providing relevant information, assisting with audits, or participating in investigations. It is all about working together to ensure that personal data is protected and that any breaches are appropriately managed and rectified. Remember, GDPR is not just about compliance, but about fostering a culture of data protection and accountability. It's about ensuring that personal data is treated with the respect and care it deserves. So, when it comes to data breaches, the key principles are notification and cooperation. Timely notification allows for quick action to be taken to mitigate the effects of the breach. Cooperation, on the other hand, ensures that all parties involved work together to protect the rights of data subjects and to uphold the principles of the regulation. Timely action and open communication are key in handling potential data breaches and cooperating with authorities. Cross-border data transfers present their own set of challenges. Also, what can be some best practices for compliance? This is a question that often arises when we delve into the realm of data protection and privacy. When personal data traverses borders, additional obligations come into play. GDPR mandates that such transfers outside the European Union or European Economic Area must ensure adequate levels of protection. This can be achieved through mechanisms such as standard contractual clauses or adequacy decisions. Standard contractual clauses are legal terms detailing data protection obligations that are included in contracts between data controllers and processors. These clauses are a common means of ensuring that personal data transferred outside the EU or EEA is adequately protected. On the other hand, an adequacy decision is a decision made by the European Commission that a non-EU country provides an adequate level of data protection. If such a decision exists for the country where the data is being transferred, the transfer is considered compliant with GDPR. But navigating the waters of data protection doesn't stop at understanding regulations. Adhering to best practices for compliance is equally critical. One such practice is establishing clear contracts and communication channels between controllers and processors. These contracts should clearly define roles, responsibilities, and obligations, reducing the chances of misunderstandings that could lead to non-compliance. Regular training on GDPR obligations for employees involved in data processing is another recommended practice. This not only ensures that everyone understands the regulations, but also fosters a culture of data protection within the organization. Furthermore, implementing and regularly updating data protection policies and procedures can help you stay on top of changing regulations and evolving threats to data security. Remember, complying with GDPR is not just about ticking boxes, but about establishing a culture of data respect and protection. It's about understanding the value of personal data and putting in place mechanisms to protect it no matter where it travels. So take on this journey with diligence and commitment, and you'll build a robust and compliant data protection framework. Let's quickly summarize what we have learned today. GDPR compliance is a collaborative endeavor requiring both data controllers and processors to understand and fulfill their specific obligations. As we've discussed, data controllers determine the purposes and means of processing personal data, and they bear the brunt of ensuring that these processing activities are in line with GDPR principles. They're also tasked with implementing security measures, conducting impact assessments, and maintaining records. Data processors, on the other hand, process data based on the controller's instructions. Their responsibilities include ensuring data security, assisting the controller in meeting GDPR obligations, and keeping records of processing activities. Both parties must cooperate with supervisory authorities and adhere to special rules when transferring data outside the EU. The key takeaway is that data protection should be integrated from the onset of processing operations, and default settings should ensure minimal data processing. Remember, GDPR compliance is not just a legal obligation, but an ethical commitment to data protection. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and stay tuned for more.